Oh man, it is just such a blessing, and I'm so excited, man, to join you guys this Monday evening. Let's get this ticker up there. You see what that says, guys? Episode 28. Unbelievable. We are making it happen. Guys, welcome to another marvelous, magnificent Monday, an uncommon Monday, an uncommon global Monday. Let's give a shout out to the empowerment of men all over the world. Support. Hey, we are making history, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Listen, guys, support the movement. Again, this is episode 28. Are we excited? Yes. Are we honored? Yes. I'm honored to be on this platform. I got to tell you, if you're watching Uncommon Mondays from our YouTube channel, please like, please share, please subscribe to the channel. Show support, guys. We are a family, and we're going to continue to extend our hand and make an impact on people's lives all over the world. If you're watching this on one of our social media outlets, same thing, guys. Share the broadcast. Get on here, ask questions, comments, be a part of the movement, like the broadcast, and grow with us as we continue to make history. So I'm excited. I'm really excited, guys. So again, welcome. And what I want to do, guys, is kind of bring to the forefront, as we do every week, my partner, a gentleman I have a tremendous amount of respect for. He needs no introduction, Mr. Dan Putnam, the mastermind, and the gentleman who designed the blueprint behind this uncommon movement. Dan, I got to ask you, brother, how are you doing? Tell me something good.
Man, fantastic, Clavon. A lot of exciting things coming down the road. A lot of new business opportunities, new launches, just absolutely amazing things going on in 2024, and couldn't be more excited to, help as many people as we possibly can, and getting this vision out there and to the public. Have some really big things for UnCommon, all kicking off July 1st, starting with our subscription boxes, with our gear. Just all kinds of really cool stuff coming out. So I'm super, super excited. This next 3.5 weeks or so is going to just be, head down, grinding it out and getting everything kicked off for a big last 6 months of the year. Again, the sole purpose of UnCommon, the UnCommon movement, the podcast and everything is just to give people the opportunity, give them the best chance that we feel they can possibly have of having success. And the podcast is a big part of it. Just like we talk about one of the most proven success principles, the success leaves clues. And that's really what this is all about, is just interviewing uncommon man after uncommon man, week after week, month after month, soon to be year after year. Again, we're already more than 6 months into this, almost 7 months into this podcast. And again, we're just getting the ball rolling. But just like we said, our goal here is to interview these uncommon men, give as many nuggets as we possibly can to their mindset, to why they feel that they had success, their mentors, just their thoughts on the 5 key points of this uncommon movement and what our goals are. And we're already seeing it. Again, almost every single one of them have all of the major things in common, from the mindset to the the daily habits and the accountability and the personal development and the mentors and all of those things. I think we could literally interview another 100, 500, 5,000 people, and we're just going to continue to get it in people's minds, to get it in their brains, that this is a decision. This is a process. Every single person can do it. It's not just people got lucky. It's not just people grew up in the right house. It's not just people had the right last name or the right whatever. We've had many of these people that came to the United States after the age of 18, didn't even know one word of English, didn't have any money in their family, didn't have anything given to them, and they still were able to do it by the same steps: making a decision, having belief in yourself, finding the right mentors, and just following the process. And that's really my goal, Clavon, is just to let people know that success is a process. They're in 100% control, and they're the only ones that can make the decision. And we want to, let them know how it works. And it's just like it literally, if we did the exact opposite of this podcast, and we just interviewed people, that are struggling and living paycheck to paycheck and barely getting by, you're going to see the same commonalities in them as the mindsets that they have, giving up all the time, quitting, not believing in themselves. The list goes on, and you're going to see the habits that they produce that holds them back. And in most cases, it's that distance right in between your ears that's really what's holding most people back. Is they don't take self responsibility. They take the victim mindset. They come up with every excuse in the world. And again, there's a lot of valid excuses. We're not saying that it's easy. We're saying that it is a process. It's your decision. And we're going to leave as many clues as we possibly can for everybody that wants to raise their hand and say, hey, I don't want to just scrape by. I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. And the big thing is, Clavon, I've really been thinking about this. It's 2024.
Yeah.
On this earth at a crazy yet amazing time. The technology that's available is absolutely unbelievable. Any of us could be in any country in the world in less than 36 hours. And in most countries, we can be in 10 to 12 hours. And that was not possible, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. And people didn't have any of the things that we have. The technology that we have in our fingertips, the cars that we drive, all of those things, it is almost unbelievable. And especially, just sometime go out into the mountains or go out into, just somewhere that's a little bit outside of the population and think it wasn't too long ago that this was basically the entire earth. There wasn't the buildings, there wasn't the roads, there wasn't all of this stuff. And every single thing that we have, from the clothes that we're wearing to the phones that we're talking on, to the computers, to the technology that we're using tonight, every bit of that came from human beings and from the resources on the planet and the earth. And that's mind-blowing if you think about it. How all of the stuffs that we have, the cars that we drive, the airplanes that we fly in, the houses, all of that stuff just came from the rocks and the soil and the trees and all of those things. It really is mind-blowing. And so I look at it, if we're blessed enough that we're here on this earth in 2024, let's take advantage of it. Let's see the world. Let's experience the most beautiful beaches and mountains and lakes and rivers and trains and airplanes and boats and live the life that we're capable of. And that's really what this UnCommon mission is all about, what the podcast's all about. And again, I couldn't be more excited because the things that we have coming out, I just feel are going to change lives. And that's what my mission is.
So exciting. Hey man, before we bring on our guest for tonight, Dan. So, Thursday, and that was wonderful, man. That was beautifully stated. And I think anyone hearing this for the first time or the second time is really clear about our movement. But I just want to have a little sidebar really quick. Thursday night, man, NBA finals start. You got the Dallas Mavericks, man, the Boston Celtics, man. Who you got?
Man, I got the Mavericks. I think that they're just, I don't know. I think I watched the Mavericks games a little bit closer because I was interested in seeing what Minnesota could do. And I just kind of glanced over the Pacers and the Celtics. Celtics have blown out some teams by some crazy points in the playoffs. You're seeing 20, 30-point wins consistently. So I haven't followed the Celtics quite enough, but I kind of feel like it's Dallas's time.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's actually Boston's time, but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure that they have the strength of character to overcome Luka and Kyrie. And so it would look like I'm with you. I'm going to take Dallas only because I think it's Boston's time. Watching what they went through in the playoffs the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced that they have the posture to get the job done. But we will see. I know they got the talent, but I don't know if they got the posture. So it's going to be a great series. I'm looking forward to going 6, maybe even 7.
I'm saying Dallas in 5.
Wow. Now that is interesting. Okay. We're gonna see. Is this my man, Sebastian? Can you hear me, my brother?
Yes, yes. Can you guys hear me well?
Hey, we hear you very well. Let me introduce you, brother. We have my man, Mr. Sebastian Castellanos, on the line tonight. Hey,
Close
every
enough.
week we scour the galaxy. We started off in this country. We started looking into other countries. Now we're intergalactical. Okay, we're
Yes, sir.
pulling men off different planets, and we're finding uncommon men all over the galaxy, brother. And to be uncommon, hey, listen, it's not common, right? It
Yes,
means
sir.
that you're doing something that's standing out where you have so much value and you're making an impact, and we can smell the testosterone dripping off you, so that means that you're an uncommon man. And in all seriousness, brother, I got a chance to meet you, and I don't meet too many 26-year-old young men, or grown men, who are fathers, who are homeowners, who are doing close to multiple six figures in the financial banking industry. I met you through Chase, and the things that you've done in that institution, the position that they have you in, is pretty phenomenal. Things that you've taught me, and so it's just a pleasure to have you on here, brother. And I just want to say thank you for showing up, and we plan to have a great conversation. And let's kick right into it if you don't mind. Sebastian, I just introduced you, but why don't you tell the world who you are, man? Who is Sebastian Castellanos? And me and Dan are going to ask you some questions, but let's just start off with a little insight on your background, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for the introduction. I'm very grateful to be here and sharing this stage with you. A little bit about myself. I'm just a kid that never gave up. I moved here from Venezuela. Unfortunately, when I was 5 in 2003, my mother got kidnapped. And she survived the kidnapping. My country in Venezuela is very, very dangerous, very corrupt country, unfortunately. But she got kidnapped, and she made it out alive, and she wanted a better life for me. So we moved here, just me and her. I had a brother going to school here. We lived in a very rough area in Tampa Bay, Florida. Just no food in the fridge. Pretty much, the story you hear over and over again, right? But something that I had in me is a burning desire with these turbulations I had growing up to do something better. So as time went on, our economic situation got better, and my family got out of that situation. Didn't have a father in my life, so I had to fend for myself a lot of the times. I have memories of my mother, someone trying to break into the back door, and my mother calling me to fend the house. So I felt like I was the man of the house very young. With that being said, unfortunately, I got into some bad situations in my youth. Just an angry kid, didn't have a lot of guidance from other men in my life, which definitely, in hindsight's 2020, would have been very important for me at the time. Didn't have that by any means, and just had my mom. My mom couldn't control me. Um, being in the wrong situation, the wrong time, in you could say doing bad things, almost cost me my life. And I pretty much saw my life flash before me, and that's a very real moment. They call it near death experiences, and it's a real thing. Pretty much it feels like an outer body experience. When that happened, it was like something snapped in my head, and I stopped doing what I was doing in that moment. That was the last time I survived what I went through. And I wanted to make a change, but I didn't have any mentors or guidance to get out of it. Little by little, I got into sales. My first job was actually door knocking, believe it or not. And I learned a lot of role playing and how to be quick in the moment with rebuttals. I didn't want to do it forever. I had someone in that moment though say, "Look, there's some job openings in the area of sales, inbound sales." So I was like, anything's better than this Florida heat in the summer, door knocking and getting the door slammed in my face. So I got into that. I did really well in my interview. At 19 years old, I made $90,000. At that time, 90,000 in 2018, it felt like a lot more than it does now, most likely because of inflation, of course.
For
And
sure.
I didn't know what to do with the money. I went from making 30,000 doing the wrong thing a year. I didn't make too much in my other lifestyle, you could say, to making 90 at 19 years old. So I blew every penny of that, and I had a good time. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I didn't know the concept of money. So uh, I realized I can't do that anymore. So I had to start saving, and I slowly progressed from sales job to sales job, building my resume into the position that I have now. I work at J.P. Morgan Chase. I have financial licenses, and I've been doing that for roughly 3 years now. I bought my first home. I had my first baby, but I could have easily been a statistic. But just because I didn't want to give up, I'm pretty hard headed. Though I didn't have the right mentorship at the moment, I felt in me I had a good intuition to make it
Yeah.
out. So yeah.
Wow. And the great thing is, I know that was a summary, but with my imagination reading in between the lines, brother, I could see I could see a movie out of this one, Sebastian. I know Dan's over there taking notes. He loves to dig into the stories before we get started. I'm gonna go ahead and defer to Mr. Putnam.
Yeah, Sebastian, just growing up, great story. But as you said, you came over with just your mom, so no brothers or sisters or other family or no, you said your brother was in the U.S. already.
Yes, sir. So my brother's actually 16 years older than me.
Okay.
So he was actually, he left Venezuela at 16 years old. He went to University of South Florida by himself. My mother
Wow.
sent him, and he was 16 years old and going to the university in Tampa Bay. So he's pretty much skipped a grade, and he got an actual foreign scholarship, but he had no money at all. So it was just me and my mom that came, and we were around the campus in a rough part of town. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Right. Wow. And growing up, did you play any sports or hang out with your friends, or more of just you and your mom just trying to grind it out and survive?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. So actually, I actually played baseball growing up mostly, and the thing is, my mother, she worked two jobs, so she couldn't pick me up after practice in high school. Uh, on time, practice ended around 7 o'clock at night. She would pick me up at 9 every day, and it drove my coaches crazy, where the point they couldn't keep me on the team. So I was like, the heck with this. I'm gonna do something else. So I started getting into mixed martial arts at
Hmm.
16 years old. So that's how I keep in shape nowadays. I still do it. I've competed. I have my purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is
Wow.
like a senior rank. But I transitioned from baseball to high school wrestling to MMA. So yeah, that's my athletic background.
Hey, Dan.
Awesome.
Dan, before you go on, ask Sebastian what baseball players come from his town, his little town in Venezuela.
Yeah.
Well, yep. Jose Altuve
Oh,
is
wow.
is from my town. Ronald Acuna Jr. He's very close to my town as well. Miguel Cabrera is from my town. So my country has a lot of talent in baseball. Actually, on my mother's side, we have a distant relative that his name's Andres Galarraga. They called him the Big Cat. He played for the Rockies. So yes,
Oh,
sir.
wow. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Altuve is something else, man. Uh, for a guy that's like 5'6" and stuff like that, he plays some ball. That's for sure.
Yes, sir.
And it's interesting with the whole UFC thing. I've been a massive fan all the way since UFC 1, and
Wow,
I had before it got as big as it is now, and it
amazing.
it started to go international when it was pretty much just national. There was, I think, 3 years, maybe 3.5 years, that I didn't miss any of the UFCs. But that's when they would have like one a month. Now they have it every single week, and we sponsored probably before they went straight with Reebok and not letting the fighters get their own sponsors. And now they've switched their sponsorships a couple times. They're not with Reebok anymore. But before that, there's probably 15 different fighters that we sponsored at different times. And so I've been a huge fan and still go usually maybe 3 to 5 events a year. So it's and the fact that I almost went, I had a buddy of mine who we've done a ton of business together. He just moved to Puerto Rico a couple years ago, but his son's getting ready to go to college. And so he was up in New York and New Jersey looking at some universities. And obviously they just had the UFC 302 in New Jersey this last weekend. And so I was super tempted to go, but I had a bunch of stuff that I had to do. And I thought maybe I should be responsible. But on the UFC side, you have a favorite fighter or a couple favorite fighters?
Yes. Charles Oliveira is one of
boy.
I love watching Charles Oliveira fight just because of my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background. Seeing him, he's so crafty. He's so crafty that it's amazing to watch.
Have you seen his story, like the little mini documentary and stuff that they did on him?
Yeah, I relate a lot to it. Being from South America as well I relate a lot to me being tall and lanky like him. I'm like, this skinny guy kicks butt. I could definitely do it. So it's inspirational to watch him. Ironically, it's funny that you mentioned UFC 1. My lineage is from Royce Gracie. So
wow.
Gracie Tampa, my direct lineage comes from Royce Gracie. All the black belts to me is from there. So he's a legend as far as getting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the map and starting the UFC off. Pretty much. So.
Yeah, I was able to go and meet Hickson a couple times and go to a couple seminars that he had. The whole thing's an amazing story, but that's interesting with Charles Oliveira, just the mindset from going from just kind of like middle of the road kind of journeyman to making a kind of a mind shift and becoming, top 2 or 3 lightweights in the world. He's beat pretty much every major one. Except for Islam, and just absolute stud. And then I saw the thing that they were talking about how bad his eyesight is, can't really fight with contacts in. And so he's literally seeing like double or triple the entire fight. Yeah. So when you realize some of that, it's just kind of, it's just kind of crazy. But that the reason we ask is just kind of, growing up, if sports or anything like that is, we normally find that there's just something that happens that gets somebody's mindset to kind of switch and be a little bit different. And anytime you have hardships and you don't give up, anytime you have hardships and you push through it, it starts to get that success mindset, and you start to realize that you can do hard things and that life's going to keep going regardless. And it's not going to be fair. And you just have to push through, and whether it goes good or goes bad, you have to, get up, dust yourself off and fight another day. And so we like to kind of get a little bit more into the background to see if we can see anything in common that creates that mindset, because unfortunately so many people, especially in martial arts and things like that, everybody starts thinking it's going to be, exciting and they want to get black belt or things. And then most of them quit before they even get their first belt because it's hard. And you go and it's like, man, this isn't nearly as fun as I thought it was going to be. And, they're yelling at me and they're pushing and it's hard work. And so they, as soon as it gets tough, they quit. And the same thing with all sports. They start playing baseball and, something doesn't go your way. The coach is unfair. The coach's son gets put in above you and you're getting overlooked and all of these things. And people are like, oh, this isn't fair. They're making all the, choosing all these other people. It's just politics and good old boys club. And so people quit. And then everything that they start going, that becomes a habit. You start pushing and then it gets a little bit of resistance and then you quit. And then you start pushing a little bit of resistance and you quit. And so that's one of the things that, I'm kind of hearing from your story. And especially you go from white belt. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not like Taekwondo or something like that you're almost just like buying belts. And if you stay in long enough, they're all businesses, but that's something that takes years or decades to get up to, black belt or something like that. And a lot of the top UFC fighters that have been going for 5, 7, 10, 12 years still aren't black belts. So that's not one that they just give that out. And
Exactly.
so the determination and stuff that takes, and the mindset and the perseverance and the discipline, I think that it's a lot of those combined that's put you into where you are. So we just kind of wanted to dig into that a little bit more
Of course.
to see what it is, what's kept you going when it was tough and things didn't just come easy for you. Sounds like you had some street experience and some street life, and saw some of that can be somewhat attractive when there seems like no other opportunity, and you see people with all the bling and the gold and the cars, and then you start thinking, man, maybe that's it. Maybe that's what I
Yeah.
need to do. Maybe that's my only opportunity. I don't have, the opportunity to go the other way. So what was it? Was it just seeing some tough situations that made you snap out of it? Your mom, said, hey, you need to quit, hanging out with that group, or you need to, do this different, or something like that, or what snapped you out of that? Because again, a lot of people, especially at 26, they get in the street life and never get out, and some of them don't even make it to 26 because of the stuff that goes on and things. But was there a certain experience or something that said, you know what, I'm going to go try a different route? And it's not like knocking doors is easy. That's not that's got to be one of the most intimidating, least luxurious, fun things that there can be, when you're literally just like, it's got to be way harder than being a telemarketer. And nobody likes to get those telemarketing calls, but nobody likes to get that door, the person. And it's just like, oh man, I even if I want what they're selling, I don't want to listen to it. And,
Especially
so that takes a lot of dedication and perseverance and belief in yourself. And another thing, that Utah is like the summer sales door knocking capital of the world. There's a couple $billion companies started in Utah through summer sales, and I know a lot of the owners of those companies, and I know a lot of the people. But that's another one that most people quit after the first week, or the first 2 weeks, or the first month. So there's a lot of things that you went through that you didn't quit. And so, what do you think got you to go that different route? Once you went that route and made 90 grand your first year, I can see why, you started keeping going down there. But what got you to not quit after the first week or two, and what got you to make that decision in the first place?
Yeah, so what got me into the bad situation to start out with, actually, I actually had $2 in my pockets. I'm, 16, like I mentioned. My mom didn't have anything, so I used the $2 to go to a job interview. It was a place called Crispers, and when I went, I had like a little nice shirt on and my little pants or whatever, and I paid for a bus ticket to get there. I had my resume. I'm excited to speak, talk to the guy because I want to start working. And the guy gives me a very, very dirty look as soon as he sees me. And he goes, hey, I mentioned, I was like, hey, I'm interested in working here. I want to learn more about your company. What's your company about? I would love to join the team. The first thing, he gives me a dirty look and he says, where's your pen? I was like, sir, no, I don't have a pen. I just have my resume here. He's like, how do you come to a job interview or looking for a job without a pen? So he grabs my resume in front of me and he rips it in my face and throws it on the ground. And I remember the feeling that I had in that moment. Tears are running down my face. I'm really angry. I'm looking at this guy like I want to kill him in that moment, right? So I decided to walk away, and I remember crying, and I used my other dollar to get back home. And that's what got me into the bad situations. I had a friend that was already doing it, pretty much taught me the ropes, and I was like, I'm never gonna have that feeling again. So even though it was bad, it was an entrepreneurial spirit that I had, just because I didn't want to take that anymore. I didn't want to have that feeling that I felt. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to be my own boss in a way. Like I said, even though it was a bad situation, it's part of my story, and that's the truth of it. You learn
Yeah.
from these things, and I wasn't gonna just take no for an answer. I had to do something about it. What got me out of it was I was living with this paranoia 24/7.
Mm.
I didn't know if something could happen to me from a bad deal or if from private investigators. I had this constant paranoia that I knew wouldn't bring good karma in a sense, right? So, I knew that wasn't a good way to live. At some point, you got to get out of that, right? So I knew
Mm.
I wanted more, and I slowly started raising my self esteem to get out of it, right? So initially, when I jumped into it, it's because of I had low self esteem because of the rejection. So I took it in a very negative way, but slowly, as my self esteem and I saw small wins, they started stacking up, and it had a snowball effect. I read a book called The Winner Effect, actually, that talks about how small wins can create big momentum. And pretty much they talk about how boxers, when they haven't fought in a while, they fight tomato cans. Tomato cans is a
Yeah.
term for fighters that can't fight, and that your boxer knows that they're going to win to build their confidence. And you beat a couple tomato cans, when you get to the real opponent, you might actually win because you got some momentum. So that concept, I pretty much just applied it to where I'm at now, and I know this is just me scratching the surface, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. And that's I haven't read that book, but it sounds a lot like Atomic Habits, which has been popular over the last several years. And that's kind of that same thing, is just getting the habits of small wins and building upon the wins and stuff like that. Well, Clavon, let's go. Let's
Yeah,
jump forward and get
awesome.
into the whole uncommon movement, what it's all about, the 5 pillars that we build this entire movement on, and what our goals are.
Yeah, well, Sebastian, this is awesome, man. I mean, a great segue. Your story is a great segue into, what Dan has built, and I'm just so honored to be a part of this uncommon empire. It's really a movement, and as Dan said, it stands on 5 founding pillars, 5 philosophies, 5 concepts. Let's go through them, man. The first one is right up your alley because what you've accomplished in martial arts, and I can imagine as an athlete, I know you now, you're in amazing shape. We talk about the fact that health and wellness, physical fitness, health and wellness of the mind and the body. But right now, we're going to really talk about the body, physical health, man, your diet, exercise regimens. What do you do to stay in shape? Why is that important to you? Obviously, it started with you in athletics and moved into martial arts, but here you are now at 26. What does health and wellness mean to you as it pertains to success, happiness, your lifestyle? What are some of your routines? If you want to, please share them with us, man. Let's talk about health and wellness. That's our first focus as being uncommon men.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. So something that's helped me, I actually don't drink and smoke at all. So how I look at it is, health and wellness is pureness, how pure you are. And what you consume becomes you. Your cells in your body are what you're absorbing constantly, right? So if you're eating genetically modified food 24/7, what's a cancer cell? A cancer cell is a modified organism from the original source. So when you have an apple that's genetically modified, it is not the real apple, right? So when you're consuming that, you're not getting the actual nutrients. So I try to eat organic. I don't smoke. I don't drink. So that's something that's helped me. It actually has elevated my way of thinking because I'm eating so clean in that sense. One of my cheat meals, I'm gonna confess, I'm not perfect by any means. I have a weakness for In and Out, so once a week, I'm definitely hitting In and Out if everything's closed because it's open late. That's my weakness. But I usually try to get a lot of fruits in my diet. I like fruits more than vegetables just because they're sweet. I eat a lot of dates, a lot of blueberries, a lot of organic meats. Typically consist of my diet: fish, chicken, rice, sweet potatoes. I try to stay away from pastas just because they get a little heavy on my stomach, and I try to eat a little lighter. Typically, my workout routine. I have a lot of traffic where I live in Houston, and I try to beat the traffic by working out. I leave my house roughly at 6:30. I get out of the gym around 7:45 ish. I go into work around 8:30. So um, typically that's something that's been helping me. I usually swim or lift weights on a fast. To if I have a little bit of belly fat I want to burn. I don't have much, but that keeps me lean pretty much, just working out fasted in the morning. So that's something that's helped me, and I've seen lose a lot of weight swimming a lot too in the morning. So and in the afternoon, I'll typically go to MMA training after. So and then I go home.
Hey,
Awesome,
brother.
man. Any mentors in the physical fitness space? Anybody that you follow on social media? Any books? And then also anything for mental, because we really focus on health in general, but physical and mental, because some people struggle with both. Some people struggle with only physical. Some people struggle with only mental. But it is kind of two different avenues. You see a lot of times people are in great shape, professional athletes, all of this, but they're really struggling on the mental side. And see some
Yeah.
people that are struggling on both sides. But in any books, any mentors, anything that you do personally to stay strong on the mental side?
Yeah, that is an amazing question, and that is overlooked. I actually want to touch more on the mental side because that drives everything that you're gonna do, right? So something that's helped me and that I've learned from mentors on the mental side is not taking everything so personal, so serious. You can identify, say someone says something negative towards you, you can identify and you can hold on to that and feel like you are what that person called you. How I take it is, if you have actual self-confidence, self-belief, if someone says to me hypothetically, "Oh, I don't like your blue hair," I'm not going to get offended because I actually don't have blue hair. If someone hypothetically called me ugly, I'm not going to be offended because I don't feel like that, right? So taking, maybe that person's having a bad day, taking things too personally. I don't let labels that other people put on me, I don't attach it to myself. So that's one thing that's really helped me out. I guess that ties into not caring too much what other people think because you're in your own lane. Something that's helped my self-esteem and my confidence is what you see now in social media is everyone comparing to each other. What am I? Am I a 1 out of 10? Girls are doing that to each other as well. My perspective is I'm one of one. So I don't play into that game. There's never going to be someone like me ever made again, genetically, spiritually, mentally, whatever the case may be. I am one of one. So with that mentality, I'm already winning. I'll never lose. That's something that's helped me a lot. Mental sanity, meditating a lot has helped me. I try to meditate in the morning if I can. I don't do it every day, but when I have a second and I catch myself, I'll meditate on the way to working out or to my house. Pretty much it's kind of like pseudoscience, right? But if you have a negative thought coming into your head, if you just observe the thought, say it's a bad thought, you observe it instead of attaching it to yourself. You have a different awareness, right? You're not buying into what came into your head. So having that awareness, that presence in the moment, really has helped me with my mental sanity, you could say.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard something a while back, maybe probably more than 10 years ago, and it kind of changed my way of thinking, and that is, if something hasn't happened yet, any way that you think, negative or positive, it's a lie because it hasn't happened. You don't know.
Right.
And so that concept being, if it hasn't already happened, why would you ever think negative? And
Exactly.
and I think most people, just human nature, maybe probably 9 out of 10, the first thoughts are always negative. We're always thinking of worst case scenario instead of
It's a,
focusing on best case scenario.
it's a
And then
survival.
it's interesting when so many people don't really believe in manifesting. They're like, "Oh, that's stupid. Oh, that's crazy. I don't, it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything." But what they don't realize is everything that they're manifesting is actually happening. So they're proving that manifesting works. They're just showing it on a negative scale.
Yes,
because
sir.
they're
Yes,
worried about
sir.
all these things happening. They're worried about the worst. They're worried about this and that. And then it ends up happening. And then they're like, see, I told you, Sebastian, I told you, Clavon, I knew that was going to happen. And it's like, yeah, you manifested it. But
Exactly.
I literally had to start practicing. And it is something to practice, just like, any skill set is. And when something negative would come, I'd literally have to say, here's the bottom line. What do you want to happen? If you could choose and it was 100% your choice, what would you choose this situation to end up like? And then I had to start focusing on that because my thoughts for, I don't know why, maybe not everybody's like this, but my thoughts were almost always negative, meaning I always was worried. I was always thinking the worst case scenario. And then I would have to stop myself and say, hey, if you were the one making the decision and these are the options, what one would you choose? Of course, I'd choose the best. So let's just focus on that. And let's try not to worry about it until after it happens.
Yes.
Yes.
Bad things can happen, but let's
Yeah.
deal with them once they happen. Let's not worry about them until they happen. And even if you're like painted in a corner and it looks like it's probably going to happen, still work on training that mind so that once it happens, then deal with it. Until it happens, just think that if you were the decision maker and it was 100% your choice, how would you like the situation to end up? And go with that until something happens, and then kind of get back. And so that's just something that I had to do and still have to work on, because I still get those doubts that creep in your mind. And I've said this many times, the problem we have is as soon as we start believing our doubts and doubting our beliefs, that's when we start to go in the wrong direction. And so I love that you said that, and everything that you're talking about is powerful. Let's go ahead and move on, Clavon.
Yeah. So, Sebastian, here's something I say with a tremendous amount of like really excitement and pride. It's the history of the UnCommon movement. The first time Dan mentioned to me about UnCommon, we had talked about men's empowerment. We had talked about the fact that men globally, nationally, locally need a support system. But I'm going to tell you that the first concept was freedom. That's how this thing started. It was a conversation about freedom. And so you got to put health and wellness first. We all understand that. But we got down to it, it was freedom. And freedom came from this concept of leverage and financial literacy, right? Financial literacy through this concept of leverage. And I want to take it there, knowing that, you being in banking, also knowing how you made 90 grand and ran through it, right? I'm thinking that 90 grand came from some level of commissions or
Yeah.
linear income. You were out there hustling in the heat, trading time for money. You lost it all, and didn't come back. So I know you understand residual income. I know you understand the difference between linear income and residual. We focus again a lot on this idea of having leverage, multiple streams of income. A lot of the concepts you get from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or my favorite piece, The Richest Man in Babylon, that teaches you not to, spend your money, try to spend the money that your money makes. Dan is very literate and passionate about that concept as well. But I want to ask you from a perspective of, how it felt losing that 80,000. You said you enjoyed it, but you probably learned a little bit more about residual income very, very quickly. And some of what you've learned now being at JP Morgan Chase, just your whole concept of financial literacy, how important that is to you, specifically residual income, the power of residual
Yes.
income.
That is amazing. Yes, yes, I did blow through it. I did have a good time, but it was not worth it in the long run. I wouldn't have learned what I've learned if I didn't go through it. So I get the concept of money a lot more now, right? As far as linear, yes, like you're saying, it's just traditional. You're working to make the check, whether obviously commission as it's better if you are able to produce because you can make a lot more if you're good at what you're doing. So, but yes, that would be classified as linear income regardless. Residual income in my industry, uh, in my position, I make a salary and a commission based on what I produce. The next step in my banking industry role would be a financial advisor. So we get paid off of assets under management, and we get a residual monthly based on how many assets we hold. So in my situation, it's how if there's some producers at Chase that make 3 million a year just residually, so they can go travel with their kids as financial advisors and not be in the office. They just keep the maintenance going, so they make a residual off of the assets under management. So in my lens, that's how I understand it. There's plenty of other ways to make it. There's other forms of passive incomes, whether it's living off your investments from dividends or living off of interest off a substantial amount that you've accumulated in investments, or having a couple, properties that are rentals that are coming in. So those are the types of residual incomes. I know in the uncommon movement, you guys also have residual income, high earning potential for individuals that are, hardworking and dedicated. So I know you guys are more into that space of residual income, which is it's great because, you'll have your time back, and time is more important than money, right? So time is way more important than money, and you'll never get time back, right? So time is you can't even describe how much time is, how important time is, and if you waste your time, that's something that when you get old, you'll remember all the time you wasted. So I think residual income is the key. Free. I feel like also freedom is a man's essence. They always want to be free. They want to feel free. Like, and think about in sports when the running back pierces through the line and they're free and they score an end zone or whatever the case may be, or in an MMA fight like we were talking, and somebody finishes the other opponent, the roar that they let out. Men want to be free. They want to travel the world. They want to see things. They don't want to be confined in a box. And I feel like residual income will give you your time back, and that alludes to freedom.
Mm. That's just beautifully said, brother.
Yeah, and that really, those two things is the entire goal of this uncommon movement is the two most valuable assets as a human being. If we're not getting into spirituality, if we're not getting into our family and things like that, just us as a single human being, our health, both physical and mental, and our time. That's the goal, is to give people the best chance that they possibly can of controlling their health, physical and mentally, and then having complete control of their time. We feel that gives them the best chance of success. So that's really what the uncommon movement's all about. These next three things are how you do that. And so, Clavon, go ahead and let's go on to that third pillar, which again, this is designed to help people control their health physically and mentally, and then also get that financial freedom and control their time. These next two components directly are kind of the how of how we achieve those two things.
How we achieve them, man. Every man I meet is either one or two categories. And, no matter how much I love and respect them, there's a man who has grown just based on the natural flow of life, trials and tribulations, their environment. Maybe they've had some, they've had situations where they've had to work through pain. They fell down, they got back up, and you see a person who's strong. But I always can tell a person, Sebastian, who has went that extra mile and actually invested into their personal growth and development, meaning they sought out mentors, meaning they actually have a library in their house, or they read a lot of books, or they just humbled themselves and wanted to always fight and be the best version of themselves. And you can see what these people mean to the community. You can see the value they add to any situation. And so personal growth and development is got to be one of the strongest and most powerful investments as it pertains to gaining financial power and being very healthy mentally and physically. So when it comes to personal growth and development, partner, what is your story? Let's get a little bit more specific on maybe some mentors that pulled you out of the trenches, some books you may have read. You mentioned one. So again, mentors, some things you read right now. What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? Give us some insight on what personal growth and development means to you at this stage in your life, if you would.
Yes, thank you. So actually, self-development, I call it, is the biggest thing. It's the biggest caterpillar that got me away was got me away from what I was doing to where I am now. While all my friends that were doing bad things, I would do my dirt and go train or go read or go hang out with a pretty girl, right? So self-development, keeping that linear long-term goal is what kept me on my right path. You know, while I'm pretty much the only one standing out of my old group. Uh,
What do you
things
mean by
I think
what do you mean by that?
so. You know, as far as all my friends that were in different types of situations, they're no longer here. They've passed away due to the type of lifestyle we had, and I think I owe it to self development. I literally owe it to self development. When I was young, I'm going to confess, I got into uh, the pickup community, and a lot of the people that I was around, they preach self development, you know, pretty much growing yourself through knowledge and experience. So they preached a lot about reading books too. You know, we would learn a lot of techniques on how to, you know, meet people, network, and also with the opposite sex. And well, part of it was self-developing and reading books. So some of the books that I read were The Power of Now from Eckhart Tolle. Like I spoke about meditating. That was probably the first book I read. Another one is The Way of the Superior Man, David Dita. It talks about ancient scriptures of how men should be in the world and how they should interact. Another great book is The 50th Law by Robert Greene. I love Robert Greene, all the books that he has, like 48 Laws of Power, Art of Seduction. Um, those types of books, I think that for me, you know, I didn't have the opportunity to my parents didn't get a 529 plan and get me through university, you know, but I think you have to, as a man, equip yourself with knowledge. There's no going around that. If you want to, you know, stray away from the pack for whatever reason, you have to educate yourself. Because when you're speaking to highly successful people, they're going to know if you're smart or not. They could sense it. If you're not on your P's and Q's, they're going to feel it. So just being a well traveled, educated man will attract things in your life that you'll never believe.
And let me ask you one quick question. So you're saying the friends that you were running the streets with, are you saying that they either deceased, died, or were murdered because of the street life, or got incarcerated, and you feel like the personal growth and development kept you from having, you know, that you know, those similar experiences? Is that the one thing that stopped you from having the same results that they had? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the reason is because I had a growth mindset. I didn't see myself stuck. I knew that even if I was in a bad situation, even if it was because I put myself there, I knew with time, dedication, focus, I was going to get myself out. Some people think that everything in life is because you have talent, right? And you can have some talent, but it's really what you develop into that transforms you. The time that you put in, the your brain will pick up on it. If you're putting
Mm.
in the time, energy, your brain, it's a computer. You think it won't recognize patterns and figure it out? It will. So I already knew that. I already knew that. So I knew that wasn't a long term goal. Who wants to be stuck in that, right? I knew I wasn't gonna be stuck in that. But my friends didn't know any better. Even it, you know, if I tried to help them, they were so involved into it that they didn't. That's all they knew. That's what they were comfortable with. Stepping out of their comfort zone it's scary, right? So they even as dangerous as what they were doing, they were still familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the sayings that just kind of came to my mind. I don't know if he's the originator of it, but I think I heard it first and the most from Jim Rohn. And he talks about the concept of, you know, you can make a living with a formal education, but the only way you can ever make a fortune is through self-education. And
Self-education.
I think that that's kind of the whole thing. And the main thing I try to reiterate when we're talking about personal growth and development is that the personal growth and development is an action-based process, meaning it's not just gaining the knowledge, it's gaining the knowledge and putting it into action. And I think that the action is the most important part. Meaning there can be somebody that has all the book smarts, he's read every book, he knows what to do in every situation, but he never pulls the trigger. There's no way he's going to be successful. There's the other person that just starts to, get just a couple fundamentals, and he goes all in on those one or two fundamentals, and he can make a fortune. So I really focus on what can I do personal development wise to always have an action plan. So I think that it's important that we do everything with a purpose. Like, why in the world would I read a book like Atomic Habits or any book? Why in the world would I read it? The only reason to read it is to change your habits and to make change. Because if I just read it for knowledge and then I do nothing with that knowledge, it's an absolute waste of time. My shirt, you can't see it all on here, but it says nothing changes if nothing changes. And that's my biggest thing that I try to reiterate when we're talking about personal development. This is an action game. You read a book with purpose. I read a book because I want to change my morning habits. I read a book because I want to change my mindset. I read a book because I want to plan my days. I read a book because I want to manage my time better. I read a book because whatever the reason is, and then I implement those things to make the change of why I'm reading the book. So the only thing that I would emphasize to any listeners is if you're going to get down this personal development game, don't just do it because you heard that you need to read these books. Don't just do it because so-and-so said this is a good book and it changed his life, because the book didn't change his life. Taking action from some of the principles in the book is what made the change. And so I just want to really emphasize on the personal growth and development. Do everything with a purpose. Like if you're taking, I loved what you talked about food. I've been thinking a lot about food, and it's something that I've struggled with. I know the foods that I should be eating, and then I'll just, go to ease and fast food and taste good and, food with sugar in it and artificial sweeteners and all the garbage. And what's crazy is you just need to simplify it and eat single ingredient foods.
Beautiful.
If all you're doing is saying, "Hey, I'm only going to eat single ingredient foods," you're pretty much on point. And but so often we're eating what you were saying, these lab made up foods that didn't exist. Even most of the foods that people are eating, they literally didn't even exist like 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. They didn't exist.
Yeah.
And so I think just the simplification, but do things on purpose. And like, even if you're going to eat food, eat it with the purpose. What are you eating it for? If you're going to take a supplement, what do you want from that supplement? And the last thing I'll say, Clavon, before I let you move on to the next one, I got my degree in psychology. And one of the things that I really dug down deep in was the placebo effect, both the placebo and the anti-placebo. And what I learned is our brains are so powerful that it can work for us, or it can be our biggest weakness also. It can work against us.
Yes,
and one of the sayings that I love, and I also have to continually remind myself, and it says that if you knew how powerful your brain was, you would never have a negative thought.
I love that.
And so I think a lot of times we need to, think about that stuff a little bit. And if you're going to jump down this personal development, find these mentors, do this stuff, do it with purpose, have the mindset of everything that you read, make a decision. Is this something that I want to implement or not? You don't have to implement every single thing that you read, but go in there with the purpose of improving your life with your mindset or whatever it is, and then make a plan after each chapter. Think about it. And I heard somebody that was, talking a lot about the proper way for personal growth and development. And he said, you really don't want to read any more than about 10 or 15 minutes a day, because you want to read and then you really want to think about what you read and how you can implement it, or what you're going to implement, or what you're going to do with that knowledge, and decide if this is something that you want to test, if this is something you want to incorporate. And if we read for like 2, 3, 4 hours, it's almost never something that we're going to go back and remember the first 5 or 10 minutes of what we read and how in the world we're going to incorporate that in our life, because we really don't even remember it anymore. So go through personal development with a purpose. And let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Clavon.
Tell you what, we're going to wrap up with these last two, Sebastian. Appreciate your time. And we're really excited, man, about the information you've shared. You know, this is going to be archived and people will be inspired by your story. And, you know, I love these 5 pillars because it's just not cliche. They're solid, man. And I've been a part of so many organizations and movements and groups in my life. And I've learned that where there's no accountability, there's just no fulfillment of the goal being maximized. You know, like nothing really happens without accountability. Things start, then they fall. It's just amazing, man. Accountability is the key. We know that we're proud of with our organization, the type of systems we put together. One thing that we've learned from most of our uncommon men, Sebastian, is that you got to have a strong system in place to go with the accountability. We've heard so many different philosophies on accountability. I can't wait to hear yours as someone and engaged in martial arts and maybe even accountability through your corporate experience right now. But I know, and Dan reminds me about something that I shared some time ago. But for all the listeners to understand the importance of accountability, you could just go right back to looking at, let's say, the military, for instance. There was no real strong gauge of accountability. Those soldiers would not develop. If there was no real focus on accountability, those soldiers wouldn't be able to have the pride to know that my brother's got my back and I can put my life in another man's hands. You know, I don't think any sports franchise ever won a championship or any individual ever won a championship if they weren't being held accountable and pushed to their highest level. So I'm interested to know, you know, quickly as we get ready to close out, what accountability means to you, Sebastian, in your business world, in your life. You're raising a child now. So, you know, what does accountability mean for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Clavon. So it means a couple things for me. I think that the first thing that it starts with is obviously self accountability, and that has to do with your word to yourself, the promises that you keep to yourself, those thoughts that you have in your head, they're going to turn more positive if every promise you make to yourself you actually do. Whether you come up short or not, the fact that you did what you said you were going to do to yourself, you are going to have more self-esteem because of it. So I think it starts first with self-accountability. The brother in arms accountability, that is more like a feedback loop, because we all have, you know, weaknesses in life, right? So when you have the group of men, they're going to see something that you need a little push in or little help, you know. And I think that that's a feedback loop. When you have your brothers in arms helping you, they're positively giving you that edge because they care about you, right? They're doing it for a reason. If they didn't care, they wouldn't say anything. It'd be like a bucket of crabs mentality, right? No, I want to outdo this person. I want to do out that person. But when you have a brother that cares, they're going to give you that feedback to have you improve. Or if you're doing something incorrect, they're going to tell you. Another pillar of accountability, like I said, about being honest, keeping your word. If you see your friend doing something wrong, have the courage to tell him. You could call him out in a respectful way to make him wake up and understand where he's incorrect, you know?
Awesome.
Yeah, I love that, Clavon, because we've heard that from almost every single person that we've talked about when they started off with talking about self-respect, self-responsibility, and we mention this all the time. And just, you know, think about people who lie to you all the time, people who never keep their word with you, who never you know, do what they say they're going to do. And what do you think about those people? Are those the people you like to hang around with? Are those the people that you know, can count on? And then yet we constantly do that to ourselves. I mean, if you can't count on yourself, who in the world can you count on? If you can't even keep the promises that you make to yourself, and I'm speaking to myself. This is something that I struggle with. I tell myself all the time, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to start Monday. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, June 1st is coming. I'm going to start June 1st. I got to go all in the month of June. And now all of a sudden it's June 3rd. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll guess I'll start next Monday, or I'll start, I got to start after this week, or I have a trip coming up. And it's like, okay, I'll start after that trip. And it's always that. And it to me gets so frustrating because I don't think I would ever do that to another person.
That's amazing. Yeah,
And yet I constantly will do it to myself over and over and over. And I don't get it, but I think that's that first thing. And I love how he described the two things. First off, it's that personal responsibility and keeping the promises that we make to ourselves. And the second thing is more of just a brotherhood to help have somebody that cares for us and will help keep us on track. And the only way that you can do that is have to have some system you're following, some goals that you've told other people about. Because if you don't have a system or you don't have goals that you've let your friends or your loved ones know about, there's really nothing to hold you accountable to. Like Sebastian, if I don't know what your goals are and we're working together and we're friends and stuff like that, I can't hold you accountable to anything. But if you tell me, man, this is what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to eat single ingredient foods, cut out the artificial sweeteners, cut out all the stuff that has all this garbage made in the lab to get us addicted to it and all of these. I'm going to start working out. And you tell me all this stuff. And then I see you and we go to the gas station and you go get, the bag of chips and the candy bar and the soda. Then I should say, hey, what happened with this? And then it's like, oh, well, I'm gonna get going again tomorrow, or today's my free. You know what I mean? It's just whatever. But the only way that anybody can hold you accountable is if it's a system you're following, or somebody that you've expressed your goals and desires to. So there has to be that self accountability. There has to be that self respect. But most people struggle with that, and that's why we're talking about letting other people know what your goals are, getting some partners and doing that. Because if most people were good at keeping their word to themselves, New Year's resolutions wouldn't be anything that people are really messing with, especially having the same New Year's resolutions for the last decade or multiple decades. But I love what you said with accountability. I feel the exact same way. And man, it's one of those things that sure is easy to talk about on the podcast, but it's a whole nother thing to actually keep those promises to yourself and have enough self-respect that you care enough about yourself to do it. And so I love what you said, and I couldn't agree more.
Thank you. I actually do it literally just for the feeling and the peace and quiet in my mind when I am on that roll. Like I mentioned, when I'm keeping my promises, the little voice in my head's gone. It doesn't even show up. The negative one is nowhere to be found. It's when I'm not doing it that it pops up and it's really loud. So I love that. I do it just for that reason alone, to be honest with you. That is literally the only reason I do it, So.
That's a good reason, though, because that voice gets annoying when you keep on telling yourself, and then you have to be like, man, this is pathetic. I'm trying to tell these people what they should do, and then I don't even do it myself. And so I'm gonna put that into place, Sebastian, and I'm gonna be like, you know what? I'm gonna starve that thought out so that he has nothing to say, and I think that would be worth it just to have that kind of disappointment in yourself go away.
Oh, and you'll man, you're already a vibrant person, my friend, but you are gonna double it. You're gonna feel so different just in general. So, and that goes with anything that you do. A real something that means a lot, and you make that promise, you're gonna do whatever it takes to get there. So.
I love it. I love it.
I think that 3 leads into 4. We just came off of personal growth and development, but listening to you too, it just reminds me. I think personal growth and development is about self-programming. It's all a big game of self-programming. I mean, either we're going to be programmed by outside sources, or we're going to program ourselves, right? And so I think that's what that conversation is, and like you said, Dan, starving out that voice. We end up Sebastian, with this awesome concept of giving back. I like to say, get rich and give back, and we got to clarify it, right? Because rich is not just $100,000 a month, or a couple of $1 million or a couple of million a year. It's not just financial rich, but we want that also, right? You get super rich and not give back and help people on a material level, but getting rich of the mind, getting rich of spirit, and giving back in terms of service, getting rich and giving back like you have for this hour and 10 minutes so far tonight. Just the idea of giving back. And I'm really excited that this is, the fifth pillar. They're also so important. What does giving back, kind of mean to you? Is there anything that you do now in the form of giving back on any level? I can tell you this really quick before I pass it to you. It's the one thing that made me fall in love with the Be Epic global empire, is watching how this company all throughout the world, especially South America. I've been there in Mexico and watched Dan lead a give back mission of school supplies and clothing and books and book bags and pens and pencils and food, and being out on this leadership extravaganza, but watching everybody take a day, not to have fun, not to run into the beach, not to eat and drink all exclusively like we did on this high-end 5-star resort, but everybody bunkered down and spending hours and hours packing book bags with supplies for all the children in that part of Mexico, and then getting on the buses and taking them, throughout the different regions. That blew my mind to know that this man doesn't just talk about it, but service and giving back is the primary focus of why we're here, of why we're trying to win. And then to watch it translate all the way down to looking at the look on a waitress's face when we get a bill, and Dan is like taught us, hey, let's tip and match the total amount of the bill tonight. And watching that waiter or waitress just smile and feel so great. I've really learned. I thought I saw it with my mom, Sebastian, because she was the most giving woman and still is that I've ever met in my life. So it's always been in me. But to see it on this corporate level with a business mentor who also understands the power of giving is just inspiring. So I want to know, for you, what does giving back mean, and what are some of the things that you do in your personal life?
I honestly think that for me personally, giving back is the one of the main pillars of life. It literally is the point of life. Like, for example, I didn't have a father due to my parents' situation, right? Why would I repeat the cycle? Why wouldn't I give leadership to my daughter? Why wouldn't I why wouldn't I stand next to her and protect her from evil, from someone trying to break in the house, or make the monsters go away? Why wouldn't I give back? Why would I repeat the cycle? Why wouldn't I help a brother in need that's going through a mental breakdown or a breakup if I have knowledge that can get him out, because I've done it to myself. I've got myself out of things, right? Why wouldn't I give back? It just makes the world a little lighter when you give back. It makes the world a little easier. And if everyone had that mentality, we wouldn't see the things that we see, if everyone had that same vibrational state, the world would be more of a paradise. It'd be a little easier. You would see more smiles daily. I feel like so. To me, giving back is the whole purpose of it. What's the point of accruing wealth if you're not helping your loved ones? You're gonna do it for yourself? That's empty.
Well put. Well put.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've noticed. If you're just doing it for yourself, you can never get enough. It always you always need it to be more, because that self-gratification doesn't last very long. Even if you buy something that you've wanted your entire life, usually within a month, but definitely within a year, it's just already there. You don't appreciate it like you did. At least most people don't. And so then you want more, and that more never stops. And so you never get that self-fulfillment if it's all about just yourself. But what I found is to see the smile on somebody else's face, and to help somebody else that's struggling, and help somebody believe in themselves, and help somebody understand that they can achieve it and that they can do it, and that they got people that care about them, and they got people that want them to be successful and want them to be happy. That sticks with you a lot longer. I remember the feeling so often of helping kids right here in our local community, not only the continent of Africa and South America and other places around the world that are struggling. There's plenty of places in every single neighborhood that are struggling. And going to the schools and seeing what kids need help, and going to the churches and see what families need help, and just the feeling of how good you felt helping these kids or helping these adults and helping these people that were struggling. That seems to last with you longer, and it's something that you keep doing it and you keep doing it, and it seems like you get way more fulfilling than if it's just yourself. And that's really what this movement's about for me. If I was just making some money, like what you were saying, some investment bankers, I've met some investment bankers making 1.5 million a month or more, just crazy money. And I thought, that's incredible. And, it's great money. But to me, that's not super fulfilling, because, okay, I'm helping myself. An investment banker might be the wrong term, but most of them are situated that they make the money whether the client does or not, based on the commissions of what the client invests. They don't only make money if the client makes money. In most situations, they make money regardless if they win or lose. And so I've just been at the point that what can I do to help as many people as I personally can, and then just keep on pushing with that. And to me, it's almost a selfish thing, because it does more for me than it probably does for that person. But
but it's a good selfish thing. It's a positive. It's a positive thing, And
yeah.
I get what you're saying. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I
No,
want to
that's it, man. I just want to thank you for your time, and like Clavon said, that this is taking an hour and 20 minutes of your most valuable asset, your time, and for the sole purpose of seeing if you can help some people. And we don't know who's watching it live, who's going to see it a week from now, who's going to see it a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But that's one of the great things about having the information online. It'll be something that, as your daughter gets older, she can hear about your mindset when you were growing up, and the things that you went through, and all of that. So I again want to thank you for sharing this time and for giving back to everybody who watches this, and just keep it up, and we're definitely your biggest cheerleaders, and want to stay in touch and see if we can all help people together.
Sounds good, Maria. Thank you for having me, both of you. I really, really appreciate your time as well. It was an honor sharing the stage with you guys, and sharing ideas and things that will just bring good karma to you, me, and whoever's listening. And if I could change one person's life, I already succeeded in that regard. So just by somebody listening to this, inspiring them, or putting a smile on their face, or making the world a little lighter for them, then I'm already happy with that. So I did my job.
Awesome. I'll tell you what. Well, Sebastian, if you or any one of your loved ones want to go back and watch this broadcast, you can do it through our YouTube channel, which is present right there. There is our tag. Hey guys, we came, we saw, we conquered. Another great episode of Uncommon Men, Uncommon Mondays. Everyone out there, man, as we close out, do me a favor today, tomorrow, the next day, extend your hand and make an impact on another person's life. Sebastian, again, thank you. Dan, as always, it was an honor, brother, to share the platform with you. I thought this was a great episode. And we'll be back next week, guys. We will be back next Monday with another great episode. And hey, we are out of here. You guys be blessed, and thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Enjoy your night, guys.